is the Utilities Emerging Technology Demonstration Program.
Thank you very much, John. For the next program, we have Senior Resource Planner Debbie Lloyd to give us sort of the overview of the program as we're proposing it.
Is that on or off? Is that on? Oh, that's on, okay. Chair Foster, Commissioners, good evening. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to follow on for the excitement of that name selection, but I am here this evening to present staff's proposal for a City of Palo Alto Utilities Emerging Technology Demonstration Program. So the purpose of this program will be to promote the testing deployment of new technologies or innovative applications of technologies that can be used to provide a benefit to the City of Palo Alto Utilities and its customers. We have a little graphic up there, which I hope doesn't confuse the issue, but just to try and illustrate. So we have come a long way since and had a lot of technologies that have improved on the incandescent light bulb. And Commissioner Wolfogel, you might recognize the picture that's up there on the right. What I'm trying to show here just in concept is what we're trying to do with this program is not just to test out new gadgets, widgets, new technologies, new light technologies, but potentially the applications of programs. So what we have here is taken from an example that we saw last month at the NCPA annual conference. It was given by the chair of FERC, Chair Wellinghoff. And this is an FBI building that's in Los Angeles. What they've done here is they upgraded their lighting system. They replaced their T8 lamps, overhead lamps, with T5, not a new technology. And then they had LED task lighting to supplement the overhead lighting. What they did was to drastically reduce the amount of overhead lighting, and they also introduced controls on the lighting and a remote dimming option, so they can, when they get a call to participate in their demand response program, they can just gradually dim the lighting. And what they're finding out is that nobody notices it.
And we just did that with all of you.
You never noticed, did you?
No, we're kidding. Commissioner Wolfogel will know that's exactly what happened in the experiment they did when Chair Wellinghoff was describing it.
So all we're trying to say here is that these programs that we look at, it may not be brand new technologies, but maybe these interesting applications that we want to demonstrate. Ooh, that sounds better. So a little bit of background. We already have an established and will continue our research, development, and demonstration program. That is, it's under our public benefits program that's funded through gas and electric funds. But the innovation program is intended to expand beyond what we're currently doing. It's not meant to replace or kind of consume the current program, but expand on those activities. This is something that's been, well championed by yourselves, to the point that you established the subcommittee on innovation, technology, and projects back in January 2010. Met a few times. That subcommittee has met with staff on formulating the program design. Subsequently, the city manager's office initiated a broader citywide effort to develop a citywide policy for an emerging technology program, into which this program has been somewhat folded. This city program did go to Policy and Services Committee last month, was reviewed by that committee. They generally supported the concept, but they kind of asked for a little bit more work, and they were mostly concerned, I think, with data privacy issues, risks to the city, and wanted an assurance that there was going to be they were going to be pursuing projects that would have a tangible benefit to the city. When we've been putting together the proposal for our program, we have looked to other utilities to see how they've set up their emerging technologies program. One we're particularly interested in is the Sacramento Municipal Utilities District program. This is the Customer Advanced Technologies, or the CAT program. So in this one, they try to encourage their customers to use and evaluate new or underutilized technologies. Interesting thing about their program is the way they set up their customer agreement is the customer site is really the test site for the new technology, and the customer assumes most of the risk of participation. Then SMUD will utilize outside consultants to evaluate the program, the demonstration program, kind of during and after. We have also been participating in the Emerging Technologies Coordinating Council. This is a California-based organization. Its members are the 3 investor-owned utilities in the state, SMUD, who represents the municipally owned utilities, and the California Energy Commission. And this is a program that's it's funded through the California Public Utilities Commission from the public benefits charge of the IOUs. So, how are we going to coordinate with the city's emerging pilot program or policy? So for the utility department, research, development, demonstration is an integral part of our business. I mean, it's part of the utility industry. We have business drivers to increase efficiency and deliver competitive and valued service. And one of the ways we develop this is through these kind of activities. In California, we also have state mandates to participate and fund such programs. So this is why this is an activity that we already do, and we will continue doing so. From the city's perspective, their objectives are to advance priorities such as economic development and sustainability. And within those 2, we have overlapping goals, which is basically to help build the Palo Alto brand as an innovative city. So we want to further Palo Alto's stature as a technology and innovation hub in Silicon Valley. How do we coordinate on the implementation side? So from the utility department's perspective, we're going to be looking at the selection process, the funding, obviously, evaluation and reporting on the projects. The city-wide policy, obviously other non-utility departments will be responsible for funding and staffing their own programs. Where we share some common interest and goals is in developing a streamlined process for procurement, a standard agreement, coordination between departments, because this is going to require some coordination, and also importantly, knowledge transfer. So if we have programs that are shown to be successful that can be applied throughout the city, then obviously we'll want to share that with other departments within the city. Some potential roles that we can play as the utility department, and we're not recommending one or the other here. I mean, this could depend on the projects that get selected. At the lowest level of involvement, we see ourselves as enabling or just basically allowing access. So if someone comes with customers that they've already talked to, we just allow them access to those customers and maybe help with the permitting requirements. The next one, facilitate, is more like the SMUD CAP program. So there we would actually play an active role in helping to identify customers willing to participate in the projects, provide suitable, obviously, access to utility systems, rights of ways, and data, and provide the marketing and customer support. We may also participate as the test bed, so the utility may, the facilities or processes may be part of the test bed of a new technology. What we've done in the past could continue, providing funds and or equipment. We will be obviously providing staff time and kind of linking into the facilitate role and being more like the SMUD program, maybe provide consulting time for the post-evaluation of the demonstration projects. We could participate in grant funding, and then obviously sharing the results with other agencies, not just within the city, but hopefully we can spread the word to other agencies and within other city departments. The program structure that we visualize here, there's basically 3 phases. The first one would be an ongoing application and selection process. So we have proposals coming in constantly at various levels in the city. What we'd like to do is have an online application process where we can funnel all of these proposals that come in, and hopefully by having a structured application process, we will be able to get a better idea of the business plan of the proposer, and then when we come to evaluation, we'll have some standard criteria to compare apples to apples. And then also on the website, we would have the timeline for our next evaluation, which would be on a quarterly basis. This evaluation team, we're thinking, will consist of staff from the utilities department, and then possibly from city manager's office, purchasing, facilities as necessary. And we're also hoping to have someone from the innovation subcommittee to be part of the evaluation process. For projects that get selected in phase 1, we'll move on to the demonstration. That's where we hope to be working closely under the city policy to have some standard agreements in place for the contracting. And then we have the demonstration and the evaluation and reporting and the knowledge transfer out to other departments. In phase 3, if we see some successful applications, then there's the potential to either have a full pilot or even a full program rollout to our customers. So now the evaluation criteria, there's a number up here. I'm highlighting the 4 that we're kind of terming as must-haves to be applicable for this program. And apologize, in the report, I forgot to say abiding by city's contractual requirements and customer privacy, but obviously that's a must-have, so that's been bumped up in the list. Apart from that, obvious yes-no criteria, it needs to be innovative, it needs to be applicable to the utility and its customers, and it needs to have potential beneficial factors. So it's going to have environmental benefits, cost saving, process improvement, safety improvement. So that's what we're looking for. So we're looking for that benefit side of the proposal. And then these other evaluation criteria, obviously we'll do cost-benefit analysis, so the benefits that we're expecting against the cost of staff time, consultant, or any other resources that we have to put in. And then there's also some other criteria that may be used for weighting, and that again will match with the city's policy for local economic development opportunities and coordination with local research institutes. The proposed funding, so in the report what we're asking for is approval of $200,000 for the remaining term of this fiscal year. We're really thinking of it as a $250,000 project, but we already have $50,000 in our existing program. So we're looking for an additional $200,000. We'll need to do a kind of a request to council for that for a budget amendment. Of that, we'd have the bulk of it coming from the electric fund, and then some from the gas and water as well. And then potentially, hopefully, as we go forward, if there are research dollars available, we might be able to leverage those as well. Future years will be requested during the annual budget process. So the next steps, if it gets UAC approval or recommendation, is to go for a program and budget approval from the council, develop a standard application form, identify the review team, and then roll out the program. And if you have any questions.
Debbie, thank you very much for your presentation. Before we go into discussion, does anyone have questions for Debbie? Specific questions? Commissioner Keller.
Is there a defined time frame for when you need benefits or looking for benefits?
I think it's going to depend on the project. I mean, these are going to be demonstration projects, so it's really looking for the potential that if they show potential and they get a wider rollout, that's when you would start to see the benefits.
I mean, it's pretty open-ended as to what. I mean, there's not a set criteria for you need benefits within the next 5 years or something like that.
I think we'd be hopefully looking for something that if it's got potential to get rolled out on a wider scale basis, then presumably that would be in the next few years, not 20 years out. That would be part of the cost-benefit analysis. I mean, what is the potential for a wider scale deployment?
Okay, and another question, the funding, does that imply I'm not sure how you decided how much each fund contributed to this fund. Does that imply what the focus of the research will be, or it's independent of that? I mean, you have 125 from the electric fund, 50 from the gas, and 25 from the water fund. Does that mean the research has to be proportional to those applications?
Yeah, we're going to have to be working with legal to ensure that we use the funds appropriately under each program.
In the first year of a program, we're going to see what happens. I think this is our guess in general of where the projects will save, what sort of commodity they'll address. By far, so far, most of the things we see address the electric fund savings or products for electric usage. But, we may have to modify this as we go forward depending on what we see come in. And we may have to modify the different amounts that come from each fund.
Yeah, the charging would follow really where the benefits are, and if there was no water benefit and we were pursuing an electric type of demonstration project, the water funds would probably just sit there. The $25,000 wouldn't be used for that sort of project. I think we will have to be very careful and make sure we are following basically what the law permits.
So the intent is not to commingle those funds. They will be dependent on the project.
So it sounds like there's flexibility. I'm just trying to get a sense of what the limitations are. You use the funding that applies to what the opportunities are. Okay. And one last question. Are there opportunities, does NCPA have a similar program, or are there any, what I'm thinking about is potential opportunity to leverage with other utilities for studies if appropriate. Is that something that's been considered or even a possibility? NCPA doesn't have they have a group that manages the reporting of the public benefits program funds, but not an equivalent to that Emerging Technologies Coordinating Council. However, that is a place that does exactly, I think, what you're proposing, that you can. It's an opportunity for those members to share the opportunities they're coming across and their own results from some of the programs that they're participating in. We did contemplate joining that council, but it takes a lot of resources to be involved,
And it was initially, if you go back on the funding, it's coming from the CPUC funds. So I think it was originally the IOUs. SMUD is part of it. It's a pretty large and innovative utility. And the way it's set up at the moment, they're supposed to represent the munis. But it's certainly open for us to attend the meetings. I've been either attending or watching their webcasts. And I think there's opportunity there to share results or try and leverage of some of the programs that they are trying.
Can I get a bit of clarification on your question? Your question actually gave as an example NCPA, not the ETCC, correct?
I'm just trying to get a sense of.
So the only reason I ask that is because basically Debbie told you there are forums out there. We may or may not be official participants, but we certainly, I know Debbie's attended. I know actually Chair Foster has attended some meetings, and we do get the information. And then I just should say this with respect to NCPA, we probably wouldn't want NCPA to do it. They don't have the end user relationship the way we do. Not to say that they couldn't think of some other demonstration project, and in fact they have done some on the generation side. They've put in special wells and pumps to help their geothermal facilities, and it's funded by the geothermal participants. So there are even those things on the generation front, but much larger than $25,000 or $125,000.
Well, that was part of my thinking, is how limited are we? I was just trying to get some sense of definition of how expansive we can be in our creative thinking, or if we're really focusing on what we can do, focus our opportunities here in Palo Alto. So your answers, answered that. Thank you.
Any other questions before we get to discussion? Commissioner Barry.
Under next steps, you say that the program and budget would be approved by the council. I assume that means that the next step would be Finance Committee and then council.
Yes, and are you available to attend with us? No.
Sure.
But yeah, we would typically, anything that has some financial impacts that are of any significance, we would typically bring that to the Finance Committee. So we probably should have put that step in there out of deference to the Finance Committee.
I think we left it out just because it might be in trying to coordinate this with the city's policy development. We may go to policy and services as well. No.
Commissioner Waldvogel.
Thank you. Debbie, thank you very much. It's great to finally see to see this kind of emerging technology program presented. We've been talking about it for a while, so thank you. Well, just one request. It would be nice if there was some aspect of this program that included some annual reporting back to the UAC or to whoever's interested. But I think it would just be great if we.
Oh yeah, sorry, I should have put that in the presentation. It is in the report, but that is part of the annual reporting.
I think that's that just so that we know what's going on, and can provide all of our wise and not so wise feedback. The other thing, and I don't know whether this is possible to do or not, but to let's take a page out of Stanford University's book. So if we're working with young companies, with startups, can we get an equity position? Stanford gets some equity through their licensing office, but can we do that? Can we turn this into a profit center?
Very intriguing, and we will definitely not lose that thought.
Okay, let's have some discussion. I'm going to take the liberty of leading off on the discussion here because I've spent a ton of time on this issue over the last year and a half. I have three basic comments to make. My three comments are, number one, I think this program is excellent as is. I like all aspects of it. I even like the name. And so I think that's very good. That's my first comment.
We forgot to talk about the name.
Yes, that's right. My second comment, and this is just a very minor point of clarification. On page 3, there's a reference to providing, establishing a process to apply for assistance from the CPAU program. I had a discussion on this with Director Fong, and I just want everyone to be clear. This program, the funds in this program will not be used to provide some kind of grant funding or development funding to companies. They will be used, as Debbie indicated, for hard dollar costs, equipment costs, evaluation, consultant costs, things like that. We're not giving money to anybody. So I just want to clarify that. And then a third point, based on the discussion a moment ago about ETCC, I spent a bunch of time on this, so bear with me for 1 minute while I talk about this. The ETCC, again, the Emerging Technologies Coordinating Council, is made up of 5 entities. It is the 5 large utilities, investor-owned utilities in the state of California, PG&E, Southern California Edison, and San Diego Gas and Electric, plus the California Energy Commission, which is a member, plus SMUD, the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, which is a member. So there are the 5 of them, and they exist, basically, this entity exists basically to do exactly what we're talking about here. In other words, for these entities to evaluate new and emerging technologies and then to share information on it. And so obviously, as the Innovation Subcommittee and CPAU was looking at this, it made sense to reach out to ETCC. In fact, CPAU had already had some contacts with ETCC, and the idea did even come up as, gee, should we be part of this? Because these folks, to Commissioner Keller's point, share information on what they've learned and so on and so forth. Eventually, I will say a couple of things about it. First of all, the members of the ETCC that I spoke with, notably SMUD, but also PG&E, were very excited that Palo Alto is doing this, delighted to have Palo Alto involved in this innovation process. The decision was eventually made by CPAU staff that to some extent we're not ready at this point to play with the big boys, shall we say, and those guys are operating at a higher level than we can, and resource issues would limit us from participating in ETCC on a full-fledged basis. On the other hand, to Director Fong's comment, we have engaged with ETCC. They're aware of our presence and our interest, and have even arranged their meeting schedule or agenda a little bit. They have a public session and private. They've rearranged it a bit to make more of the stuff in the public session stuff that can be of interest to us and other similar utilities, and I think that's a good result. Debbie, I know you're taking the lead on that these days, and so I think that's all good. Those are my comments. As I said, I think the program is fine as is, or excellent as is. Any other comments? Commissioner Eglash.
Can you elaborate on what the money can and can't be spent for?
Legally can and can't be spent?
No, it's not a trick question.
Okay.
Chair Foster explained that we're not going to actually hand the money to a company. That wasn't actually clear to me from the memo of your presentation, so I just want to know what we're going to use the money for.
Okay. During the SMUD-like program, it would be mostly spent on consultant time on the evaluation of the demonstration programs.
So,
but in like our existing program, we may be buying equipment. We may be helping out. We had an example just recently where we bought some metering. Was that metering equipment? Monitors.
So let me help you here a little bit. If I understand what you're saying, the money can be spent on City of Palo Alto expenses, either associated with running the program or other direct expenses that we might incur, like buying equipment. But we're not planning, for example, to use the money to either give it to the companies that want to partner with us or to help the companies to procure services. These are for Palo Alto hardware and services. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one in the room who didn't understand that, but even if I'm the only one in the room who didn't understand that's worth making a lot more clear in the memo and the presentation going forward. It will really be helpful, I think, to you and to the Finance Committee and to the City Council to be really clear about that. And so I would encourage you to, and this doesn't need to be part of a motion, but I would really encourage you to think about revising the memo and the presentation to make it clear what you intend to use the money for. I'm really thrilled you're doing this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun and of great benefit. I think it's just a great thing. I'm really pleased by all the indications in the program that you've thought hard about having the bar be real high so that we don't get a deluge of applications, right? I mean, you don't want to wake up tomorrow to see on the front page of the New York Times, Palo Alto implements $200,000 venture funds, all comers should apply now. So I think there's considerable evidence in the plan as you've designed it that the bar is going to be high, and I think you want to convey that the bar is high. You're not going to suffer from too few applications, so you may as well intimidate and scare them all a bit. I know the utility staff. I know you're willing to say no. I know you're willing to be hard-nosed when you need to be. There's a huge opportunity cost to engaging with these companies that goes far beyond the small amount of money here, and I know your staff appreciates that, and I know that's part of the decision-making process, and it's even explicitly one of your criteria. Willingness to take risks shouldn't equate to a willingness to make bad decisions, as the whole Solyndra debacle has taught us all. And again, there's ample evidence that City of Palo Alto utilities staff understands that. Even though we should be willing to take risk here, that doesn't mean we should be willing to make dumb decisions, and I know that's just an integral part of how utilities staff works. I really like the emphasis on tangible benefits to the city. I really like the fact that it's a transparent process. I like your list of evaluation criteria, and particularly the first 4 mandatory ones. I mean, this is just full of really well thought out details that I think are going to make the difference between it being a good program and a bad program. And I think it's going to be a great program. There's virtually nothing in here about how to manage the program. It's all about how to launch the program and how to review proposals. But then, having accepted some number of companies into the program, I don't know that we need it now, but at some point I'd sure be interested in hearing more about how you intend to manage the program. For example, will you require a company to commit to milestones in writing? And if they fail to meet those milestones, do you have the ability to cancel the program midstream? I don't know if that's relevant. I don't know if it's a good idea, but I'd sure be interested to hear staff's thoughts about program management as opposed to just proposal selection. But as I say, great program. I'm thrilled, and I'm impressed with your courage to do it.
Commissioner Keller.
You may have it, I may have missed it, but is there a plan to evaluate the success of the program on a periodic basis? And can you explain how that would occur? And also, part of my thinking is, would that be a basis for possibly expanding the program if the benefits seem to justify that?
Yeah, that is the post-demonstration evaluation that we refer to, and that is where we envisage, if we follow the SMUD program setup, that's where most of the funds, or most of the 200,000 that we're looking at, most of those funds would go to that consultant evaluation of programs. The SMUD website, if you want to go take a look at that, they have, they have reports of some of their successful programs. Really interested in sharing the results of what they're doing.
Any other comments? Well, I'll make a motion to approve the staff recommendation as is.
One second.
Any comment? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Debbie, thank you again for your work on this. Next on the agenda tonight is potential topics for discussion at a future UAC meeting. Anything there? Commissioner Keller.
In reviewing the response to colleagues' memo, it occurred to me that one of the energy efficiency opportunities we have is optimizing landscaping to decrease peak loads and energy use for air conditioning, and even perhaps in the winter for heating, and also to avoid any conflicts with potential solar facilities. And I know the planning department is involved in this a lot, and one of my concerns is it seems like the utilities has an opportunity to benefit from thoughtful thinking for future load optimization. And but we don't seem to have the process to manage that, except for landscaping as it affects, distribution and transmission line conflicts. So I was wondering if there was a way we could work towards developing a process to have planning to optimize how landscaping could reduce our energy loads. I'm not sure if I'm expressing that the best way possible, but it seems like it's a benefit to a lot of departments in the city, and it seems like every department looks to other departments to take care of it, and it seems like we have an opportunity to embrace it. So I wanted to propose some discussion on that.
I don't quite know how to capture that. Sorry. I probably need a little more help there. And probably just need to remind you that when it comes to landscaping, for instance, trees, the benefits, the quantifiable benefits aren't as great as they might be in a climate where you have a lot of air conditioning load, for instance. We don't have a lot of air conditioning load, and trees in the summer do cool, but they also keep things colder in the winter, so there's some countervailing. You might have reduced energy, electric use, but higher gas use in the winter. So I know certainly that our marketing folks have given it some thought. I don't quite know how to capture what you want us to do here, so I need a little more guidance.
It just seems like there's an opportunity. We're trying to look for energy efficiency opportunities, and also for, I guess there's also the greenhouse gas emissions offset opportunities. I don't expect it to be a huge program or a huge effort, but it seems like for a small amount of planning ahead, there can be a significant benefit in the long run in terms of new developments for larger buildings. And it seems that oftentimes that's an afterthought for developments, and those opportunities are lost. And it seems like the utilities would have some potential to gain, to get more involved and capitalize on those benefits. I don't know, can anyone help me out here? Does anyone else get what I'm trying to get across?
Just to kind of my interpretation of what Commissioner Keller has been saying is that, there in new developments, landscaping plans are often an afterthought, and not particularly, the planning department doesn't particularly do a really thorough job on that. And just as part of the city process, we all sort of lived through the Joe Simidian thing, where the conflict between solar voltaic and trees, and we all remember how that played out down in Sunnyvale. Well, that's an example of where if you're planning a new development, and there is either in the development or the potential to be in the development a solar, let's say an FIT project in the future, it would be to the utilities' benefit if the landscape planning for that project made sure that it wasn't going to interfere with a future FIT application, and but we don't control that process. The planning department controls that process, and I think what Commissioner Keller is saying is with your guys' professional expertise and our lobbying ability, maybe we ought to be proposing some sort of a joint city, within the city structure campaign here to make sure that those benefits that would accrue to utilities are taken into consideration in the planning process by the planning department.
So can I understand this? You would like to have a discussion here on that? And I guess you all will have to figure out how to compare commodity values appropriately for this community, water versus electricity versus natural gas, and you will have to accord the values, you know, in your discussions. I don't know how else to do this. There are trade-offs, and additionally, you'd have to figure out, sorry, I'm not trying to solve the problem here. As you point out, there may or may not be a fit on site. You're going to have to guess at that. So I'm thinking this is a pretty involved, and I honestly don't quite have my arms around this because for me it's probably anyway subjected to certain subjective criteria.
Okay, in the interest of time, and since our brains are all getting fried at this hour, I'm going to recommend, Commissioner Keller, that I follow up with you on this one, and with you, Commissioner Melton, and with you, Director Fong, offline to sort of figure out how to move forward and or agendize. Is that acceptable to everyone? Okay. Sure.
Just a short request. It'd be great if sometime before the March meeting where we're talking about pilot EV rates, if there's any data out, say around the end of the year, about EV penetration in Palo Alto, just, you know, what's going on, is that affecting, or, you know, how's that affecting utility? That would be, it'd be great to just get that as a short report if it's possible.
Oh, okay. We'll make sure that sorry, I got my arms around that one. We'll put that on the agenda.
Any other comments? I have one comment as follows. I've been looking at the issue of Palo Alto Green, the original and current Palo Alto Green program, not the one that was discussed tonight. We all know what Palo Alto Green is. I asked Joyce Kinnear, I asked Director Fong to provide me with information on current participation rates and moreover the trends in participation rates. Joyce Kinnear was kind enough to provide that information to me. I'm going to ask Director Fong to provide it to all of you, but just very briefly. There are residential customers. The current figure is 23.5% of residential customers in Palo Alto participate in Palo Alto Green. That equates to 5,748 customers. In addition, 1%, only 1% of business customers participate. That's 50 business customers out of almost 5,000. Joyce told me that the trend for businesses has been flat, basically hasn't changed, but for residential customers it's ticked down. Presumably because people who had signed up have moved out. The people who've moved in have not signed up at quite the rate. So it is declining to some extent. As we all know, of course, our program is the leading program in the nation in terms of per capita participation in a voluntary green power procurement program. And from my perspective, I'd certainly like to think about what we can do to increase it. We all see the inserts in marketing from the utility department. I think the utility department, Joyce was here earlier, is not here now. But I think the marketing effort by the utility department is excellent. I think they are probably doing all they can, and I'd love it, and I'm not going to do it now because it's late, but on another time, have a brief discussion on what we all think can be done outside the box or differently or otherwise. So I just tee that up, and we can discuss another time. Any other comments? If not, the next scheduled meeting is November 2nd. I look forward to seeing you all then, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.